The lost land of Doggerland. From flourishing civilization to submerged legacy. The birth of Doggerland. Around 18,000 years ago, at the height of the last glacial maximum, the world was in the grip of the Ice Age. Vast glaciers covered much of Europe, and sea levels were significantly lower than today. What we now know as the North Sea was a dry expanse of land, a place where Great Britain was still connected to the European mainland by a vast land bridge. This land, which would later be known as Doggerland, stretched from the east of modern-day England to the coasts of Denmark and the Netherlands, creating a continuous, habitable zone where people and animals could travel freely. This narrative is proudly brought to you by Polly Speaks For You. At Polly Speaks For You, we are committed to empowering individuals, especially those with disabilities or learning challenges, through innovative text-to-speech and voice recognition technology. Polly Speaks For You is more than just software. It's a tool for self-expression, connecting people with the world in meaningful ways. By blending the richness of history with cutting-edge technology, Polly Speaks For You demonstrates that every voice, whether preserving the past or shaping the future, has the potential to inspire. While we strive to make the story engaging, our primary focus is on storytelling itself. The visuals are secondary. We're showcasing the remarkable capabilities of text-to-speech software that bring these stories to life. Doggerland was not a barren wasteland, but a thriving, lush environment. The climate was milder than the frozen tundra that covered much of Europe at the time. With the glaciers retreating, rivers flowed across the land, creating fertile plains and woodlands. Dense forests filled with oak, birch, and pine stretched across the landscape. The rivers and wetlands teemed with fish, and the shores were populated by wild boars, aurochs, wild cattle, and red deer. The plains were grazed by a variety of large herbivores, which attracted carnivores like wolves, bears, and lynxes. The early inhabitants. As the ice sheets began to retreat around 16,000 years ago, the climate became more hospitable, and life in Doggerland flourished. Groups of early humans began to migrate into the region. These were the Mesolithic people, ancestors of the hunter-gatherers who lived off the land. They moved in small, mobile groups, hunting and foraging in the fertile landscapes of Doggerland. The people of Doggerland used sophisticated tools made from flint, bone, and wood. They created weapons for hunting, such as spearheads, arrowheads, and scrapers for processing animal hides. Archaeological discoveries have shown that they were skilled at fishing and trapping, using tools like harpoons to catch fish and shellfish in the rivers and along the coastline. They lived in small settlements, sometimes on the shores of rivers or lakes, and probably followed a seasonal pattern of migration to exploit different resources at different times of the year. The land bridge of Doggerland was also a key migration route for animals. Large herbivores, including mammoths, bison, and elk, would cross between Britain and mainland Europe, as would predators like wolves and lions. These animals provided the people of Doggerland with food, and hunting became a major part of their lifestyle. A changing world. As the Younger Dryas period came to an end around 11,500 years ago, the climate began to warm rapidly, and the glaciers continued to melt. This marked the beginning of a dramatic transformation for Doggerland. Rising sea levels slowly began to flood the land, submerging parts of Doggerland. The people of the region, accustomed to a stable environment, now faced a new challenge. The waters were encroaching on their lands. Over the next few thousand years, the rising seas began to inundate the lower-lying areas of Doggerland, turning large stretches of it into marshland, then into small islands, and finally into what would become the submerged landmass we now call the North Sea. By around 8,000 years ago, much of Doggerland had been lost to the rising tides. Evidence of the last phases of Doggerland's existence suggests that humans who remained in the area had to adapt quickly to their changing surroundings. As the landscape changed, they may have retreated to higher ground or fled to more stable regions, leaving behind signs of their presence in the form of tools, bone fragments, and even ritual objects. The final submersion. The final submersion of Doggerland likely occurred in stages, with some parts of the land being submerged gradually while others were overwhelmed by catastrophic events, such as tsunamis or massive floods caused by the final retreat of glaciers. In one particularly significant event, around 8,000 years ago, a huge tsunami may have been triggered by a massive flood from a glacial lake in what is now Scandinavia, sweeping across the land and accelerating its submersion. As sea levels continued to rise, the land that once linked Britain to Europe was lost forever beneath the waves. The ancient rivers and forests were swallowed, and the human settlements that once dotted the landscape were abandoned. Doggerland ceased to exist as a habitable landmass, and what remained of it was gradually covered by the waters of the North Sea, where it remains to this day, submerged beneath the waves. Rediscovery. In the centuries and millennia following its submersion, Doggerland was all but forgotten, buried under the sea. However, in modern times, through the work of archaeologists, marine scientists, and fishermen, remnants of this ancient land have been rediscovered. Underwater archaeology has revealed evidence of the past through the discovery of stone tools, animal bones, prehistoric forests, and even the remains of mammoths and other animals. The discovery of Doggerland has opened up an exciting new chapter in our understanding of prehistoric Europe, revealing the land that once connected Britain to the mainland and providing insights into the lives of the ancient people who lived there. The submerged remains of Doggerland offer a haunting reminder of how the landscape of Earth has changed over time. The story of Doggerland, from its flourishing days as a rich and fertile land to its tragic submersion beneath the sea, is a tale of resilience and adaptation, but also of loss. Its final disappearance beneath the waves marks the end of an era in human prehistory, but also symbolizes the continuous and inevitable changes that shape our world. Conclusion: the end of Doggerland. Doggerland's end was not marked by a single catastrophic event, but by a series of environmental changes, gradually and irreversibly altering its landscape. The rising seas, the changing climate, and natural disasters like flooding and tsunamis eventually overwhelmed the land, forcing its inhabitants to either adapt or leave. The flooding of Doggerland not only isolated the people living in Britain, but also created a permanent divide between the British Isles and the mainland of Europe. By 8,000 years ago, what was once a lush, thriving land bridge was no more. Today, the remnants of Doggerland lie submerged beneath the North Sea, a submerged world preserved in the geological layers, offering a glimpse into an ancient past that is lost but not forgotten. The end of Doggerland is a reminder of the dynamic and ever-changing nature of the Earth, where landscapes rise and fall, civilizations come and go, and even the land itself can be swept away by the forces of nature. The legacy of Doggerland lives on, not just in the discoveries made beneath the sea, but also in the history of human migration and survival during one of the most significant transitions in Earth's history. If you're enjoying this story, please remember to hit like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue creating content that educates and empowers. To learn more about South Africa's leading accessibility software and to support our dyslexic-friendly initiative, visit www.polispeaks4u.co.za. Drop a comment if you want more information. Thank you for reading.